High times indeed. When the federal Liberals announced they would legalize pot, consumers were not the only ones euphoric over the plan. Investors caught a contact high too, jumping into an industry worth an estimated $47 billion, according to Bloomberg. It was a historic moment for Prime Minister Trudeau and his point man on the file, Bill Blair. All along, Trudeau has said the focus for him is wiping out the black market.
Right now, young people have far too easy access in Canada to marijuana. Criminal organizations make billions of dollars a year in profits on the sale of marijuana.
Trudeau is talking tough on organized crime, but existing pot dealers are not exactly packing up willingly. At the same time, Indigenous groups are demanding a seat at the table and a share of the profits. The Senate has until June 7th to reach an agreement and pass the bill. If it can't, pot will have to wait another year before its coming out party. When it is, access to legal weed will differ depending on the province you live in. Alberta and Saskatchewan are granting licenses to private companies. Ontario and Quebec are relying on government-run agencies like the LCBO. BC and Yukon, a combination of the two, and Nunavut will have online sales only. All this uncertainty is making investors nervous. So nervous that marijuana stocks are taking a big hit. This fund is typical. Horizons Marijuana, it fell from $24 per share in January to just under $15 3 months later, a drop of almost 40%. As for the Prime Minister's pledge to wipe out the criminals, will Canadians really ditch their dope dealers to buy from the feds? Bill Blair is a parliamentary secretary and the government's point man on marijuana. He's also the former police chief of Toronto. It's kind of I guess maybe a uniquely Canadian scenario where you've got to deal with the feds, the provinces, the municipalities, Indigenous groups. This is quite a challenge.
Yes, ma'am. But we live in a cooperative confederation, and I think, although it's challenging, it's an outstanding system. There's an appropriate...
But now investors are in the last few months anyway, investors have said this is too messed up. Well, this is too confusing.
Let me be really clear. I believe our responsibility is to make sure that we do a better job protecting our citizens, and particularly our kids.
It looks a bit volatile to investors. Isn't that a signal that maybe there are too many imponderables at the moment and that the bill is not quite ready to push ahead?
I always avoid giving any kind of investing advice to anybody. I'm not qualified to do so. But my responsibility is working with our provincial and territorial partners, with First Nations and with municipalities, to make sure we put in place an appropriately comprehensive suite of regulations, federally, provincially, territorial, and in First Nations, to ensure that we can achieve our goal of doing a better job protecting our kids, and we believe we can displace a significant portion of this illicit market.
I guess for investors, they always like uncertainty, or maybe a guarantee that they'll make money. It sort of looked like that at the beginning, but lately, well, actually, it's going back up now, but there was quite a plummet. And you look at Ontario in particular, where it sounds like there will only be 40 stores in the province that from the very beginning. It will grow over time, but that's not going to wipe out the black market. Like, how do you tell the market that you're getting rid of the old dope dealers?
One of the things we asked all of the provinces to do is to implement a system of distribution, but to do it carefully, to make sure that we took all the steps necessary to do this in a very responsible way.
But 40 stores in Ontario, that doesn't sound like the black market is still going to exist.
40 stores is a good start. But the province has also said that over the next 18 months that they are intending to open many additional stores in many additional communities.
But what happens to the black market in the interim? I mean, they're still going to be there, are they not?
Anyone who thinks that organized crime is going to pack up and leave the easiest money they've ever made without being pushed hard is naive. And we're not naive. I'm certainly not naive when it comes to organized crime.
So they'll be there for a while and you just gradually...
Wendy, first of all, we're leaving entirely in place all the current laws, all the current authorities that the police have to deal with organized crime. Illegal production and distribution will remain serious criminal offenses. The police can continue their work in enforcing those laws against organized crime. We're now creating a legitimate choice for adult consumers who are currently dealing with criminals to make a better choice. And we're healthy and safe.
So gradually there'll be a smaller black market?
Well, of course, ma'am. It's part of the process. And it's why I use the phrase so often. This is a process, not an event. I have no illusions that on the day of implementation, organized crime leaves. But over time, we can drive organized crime out of this business.
Someone used the phrase that the people who sell marijuana now are gateway criminals, that they will now, as this market shrinks, that they will then just move on to scarier drugs. Could it actually get scarier as the illegal, the criminal elements
frankly, it's already scary
move
enough
into
because
other
we've seen
products.
the opioid crisis, that we have many people across this country who are dying. That's one of the reasons we're retaining all of the authorities that law enforcement currently has to arrest those criminals, to interdict their supply, and their distribution networks, and to continue to arrest them. Those laws remain in place.
Investors aren't sure that they see a solid business plan or a solid market here. Do you really think that a lot of Canadians will turn away from the dope dealer that they've dealt with forever? And
35 years ago, when
buy dope from the feds? Or
35 years ago, people went and did all their gambling in illegal gaming houses. Then the government began to regulate gambling. Most of it's done in casinos. And overwhelmingly, Canadians, when presented with a legal choice, a safer choice, and a more socially responsible choice, they made it.
So will this be done by the summer?
We're working ahead. The Prime Minister was very clear that we're moving forward.
Forward doesn't mean this summer.
Yeah, but I'm awaiting respectfully the important work of the Senate. And so they'll have their vote, and then their report will come back with or without amendments, and I wouldn't speculate on that at this point. And the government will then deal with that as is appropriate. We've listened to provinces, territories, to municipalities, and to First Nations. All of the answers perhaps are not there yet.
So much to watch for. Thank
Yes,
you so
ma'am.
much for talking about this.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you.